The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily represent those of this station or its management.
It's time now for Where You Live with Gene Sullivan, the show that deals with the news and events that affect you the most. Whether you rent or own, live in an HOA, single-family home, or an apartment building, Gene will tackle the issues right where you live. So, from the True North Painting Studios, here is the original Man of Steel, Resolve himself, who stands for truth, justice, and the association way. Here's Gene Sullivan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. When you're looking for the right painting contractor, what do you look for? Isn't it someone who will respect you, your time, your property, and your budget? That's what you can expect from True North Painting. Find out more about this exceptional company by going online at truenorthpainting.com. That's trunorthpainting.com, or give them a call at 952-831-1433. I'm also brought to you by the great folks at Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. Wish to say hello, as I always do at this portion of the show, to Christopher Wyatt Earp Huberty. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Gene. How are you?
I'm great. Now, we're recording here on Friday. This is Halloween,
Yep.
and this will be broadcasting on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you: do you and your wife have any big plans for?
No, not really.
Halloween?
Just candy and a scary movie marathon.
Okay, so you don't have any parties where you really dress up or anything like that?
Nah.
Yeah.
You?
No, not for the missus or I either. Yes. We'll have some candy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hit or miss whether or not we get a bunch of kids in the neighborhood. And I got to tell you, there's a story I'm thinking of, the lovely and always effervescent Mrs. Sullivan. She always has a knack just to say the right thing at the right time to someone. I mean, a lot of times, you'll have a conversation with someone and you go, oh, I wish I had said this.
Oh, sure.
I wish I'd said that. She has a knack more often than not where she's able to just say the right thing at the right time in the right way and gets the right response.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had this a couple years ago. Oh, not too many kids were coming by. And we have a small little dog, that Mindy, that she has dressed up in an outfit, usually fairy wings on our dog. And so my wife always likes to see all the little kids and what they're wearing, and it's a big deal for kids. You know, they love make believe, they love dressing up, and this is fun. Well, doorbell rang, opened up, and here were three sullen teenage boys, probably anywhere between 15 and 16, and they looked like they were bored with life. They didn't even grunt. They just held out these huge sacks. My wife just looked at him for a moment, looked at him up and down. She said, gentlemen, she said, we're going to try this one more time. She said, I want you to say, good evening, ma'am. Happy Halloween. Trick or treat. Oh, by the way, what a great dog you have. She slams the door shut on them.
That was great.
Now, if I had done it, the house would have been egged. The car would have been hardwired.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the doorbell rings again. She opens the door. There's smiles on their faces. Hello, ma'am. Good evening. Happy Halloween. Trick or treat. Boy, what a great dog you have. And she said, boys, if you'll do that all night long, she said, I think you'll find better results. And she just gave them huge gobs of candy. Sent them on their way.
Oh, that's great.
But she was able to do that. So anyway, to all our listeners, here it is Saturday morning, the day after Halloween. Hope there were no egging at your house, no TPing.
Hope there's plenty of leftovers.
Or-
That's what I was looking forward to.
Yes. So hope all is well.
Yeah.
Well, let's begin with today's show. instead of property management in the news, we have a listener who contacted me earlier in the week and is gracious enough to come on the show now and ask the question so that we can discuss this on air. Because anytime anybody has a question and you're thinking it, listener, there are at least a couple of dozen people who are also listening to the show and have the same question. So we always encourage questions or comments. You can go to our website during the week at www.newconceptsgroup.com, and there will be our contact information. And so I want to welcome on the show today Judy. Judy, thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you had contacted me earlier in the week because you have a question or concern, and could you tell our listeners what your concern or question is?
Okay. I would like to know if it would be considered a conflict of interest for the management company to hire a board member. And in this case, it was the president of the association that was hired by the management company.
Okay. So the board president was recently hired about how long ago?
About 6 months ago.
About 6 months ago, hired to be an employee of the management company, and you wanted to know if this was a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's a very good question. There is and my answer is there very well could be the possibility of a conflict of interest, not necessarily. My answer would be that if the board president, who is now a employee of the management company, when they were doing the business or operations of your association and dealing with anything that dealt with the contract, the renewal of the management company, awarding them and or their maintenance company with any contracts to do other work, for that person to be involved in the discussions, to be involved in trying to persuade other board members to go with that would indeed be a conflict of interest. And the way to get around a conflict of interest is we all have conflicts of interest in our life. We can't ever get rid of it. And that's a conflict is just basically we have an allegiance to one particular group. And in this case, you have the president has an allegiance to two. One is to their homeowners association, and their other is in being an employee to the company that is managing the property. And the best thing to do is to disclose. And so my recommendation would be that anytime something like that would happen, the best thing to do would be that as soon as the person was hired, that person should have turned at the very next board meeting and said, I would like the minutes of the association to reflect that I have just recently been hired by the management company and they were not managing that property. Is that correct? They weren't the assigned property manager. Is that right, Judy?
No, they're not.
Okay. So they're not the manager, but nevertheless, that they're disclosing this to all the homeowners so that they would know, and that there would be, that's generally where the board can state our policy is in any conflict of interest, that that person will recuse themselves anytime they're dealing with any actions that would deal with the management company. But you said you had a concern, and how did you find out? Was that shared in any minutes of any meeting? How did you find that out?
Just one of the board members had told me that they had found out that she had been working for them for about 6 months.
Okay. And what did the other board member? What was their initial reaction when they found out after the fact?
Half of them wanted her to step down, and then the other half were okay with it.
Okay, and like I said, I think there's certainly reason for people to say I can be okay with it, but I think that the best thing to do is to always go above and beyond, and that's I think the responsibility that the board should have. and that is to make sure that they are always showing themselves to be transparent, that they go above and beyond and say, we're going to make sure that other people know that we're doing what is right by everyone. And so you said that even though you've heard about this, you don't know that that has been stated publicly. And so my recommendation to you would be that at the very next meeting of the board, that as a concerned and just a good person and homeowner in your HOA, that you would turn and say, I've heard that this is taking place, and that you encourage the board that they disclose this in the minutes of the meeting or in some sort of notice or notification, so all homeowners would know that, and that the policy the board would share would be that this person would recuse themselves anytime they would be dealing with any issues that dealt with specific direction or continuing on the management contract. So I hope that helps in answering the question for you.
Yes, it does. And I guess I had another question. Is it common for management companies to hire board members?
Is it common? I can't say that it happens a lot, but I will say that it does happen. I know in the case of, for myself, I've been the owner of New Concepts now for, better than 18 years. And in 18 years, there are probably 2 employees that are employees of mine now that were formerly board members in the homeowner association that we continue to manage. In that particular case, I think both those people who came on as employees, they felt that the best thing for them to do is they went ahead and they disclosed it to the board, and they said, we think the better action would be for us to step down, and that's what they did. They just stepped down right away so that they didn't even have to worry about any conflict of interest. So it can happen. I don't think there's anything wrong in that happening. But again, I think it doesn't happen, I think, an awful lot. I think it does happen some, though, throughout just the relationship that a management company has with people on the board, because you're always looking for great employees, and sometimes some of the volunteers on the boards are just some really great, good folks to have and to hire. But disclosure is the key in everything. So, Judy, thanks for taking time to be on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and we're going to take a break right now. Don't go away. A lot more of Where You Live after these messages.